We are in a soup of electromagnetic radiation. Almost anywhere you are, you can pick up your cell phone and receive a phone call. You can turn your TV and some signal will come through.
These electromagnetic waves can be harnessed and used in a variety of ways. In Alaska, there is a facility that does just that. HAARP is a directed energy experiment being undertaken by the US. From HAARP's wide field of antennae, the waves are focused and beamed into the ionosphere high above the Earth's surface. The ionosphere is part of our atmosphere. It contains electrically charged particles and acts like a mirror, reflecting radio waves back to Earth.
HAARP is a acronym, actually, for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. It started with Dr. Bernard Eastland's really a visionary approach to missile defense, looking for a way to really deal with the threat of intercontinental ballistic missiles from either rogue nations or our traditional adversaries.
Basically, the antenna, as originally conceived, was to be big enough and powerful enough to make major modifications to the ionosphere. This was all done at the height of the Cold War, and my focus was on defense against a major Russian missile attack.
Although little was known about electromagnetic weapons until recently, the science is not new. Directed energy is such a powerful technology, it could be used to heat the ionosphere to turn weather into a weapon of war.
The military has spent a huge amount of time on weather modification as a concept. Most people don't know, but the United States signed treaties with the former Soviet Union and 60 other countries in the mid-1970s where we agreed not to use geophysical manipulation as weapons of war. Presently, the treaties only allow us to do that within the boundaries of our own country. The reality is you can't contain weather by artificial boundaries.
Should we worry when America says it wants to reopen weather modification treaties? What kind of nightmare would be unleashed if we continue along this path? The battlefield may already have changed.
This research started quite some time ago, in fact even before the Second World War. And the reason I think that it has only sort of come, if you can put it that way, to fruition now, is first of all that the electronic world has become so dominant. The web, the internet, and this sort of pervasive global electronic networks, which now become so substantial that they become military targets. So if you can cripple whatever makes this global network vibrant and active and useful, you have a powerful advantage.
Dumping it into the microwave antennae. The bomb destroys itself, disintegrating high in the air just as the microwave beam blasts out onto the target area. This target area is called the lethal footprint.
Everything electronic that wasn't hardened there would arc, hiss a lot because your devices would be arcing over. The goal of the electromagnetic pulse weapon is to make portions of the circuit arc and burn.
These new weapons are also designed for use against people.
Obviously, one thing that's looked at, we have been testing what I'm going to call microwave weapons for crowd control. What they do is, again, instead of using a single pulse, these are continuously directed energy weapons that heat the skin very rapidly, much like your microwave oven. In fact, almost exactly like your microwave oven, but they're controlled broadcast microwave pulses. And obviously, you can derail a opposing force very quickly if all the soldiers begin to feel a burning sensation on their skin. That's truly a burning sensation. Now, the nice thing about, from the offensive point of view of a microwave weapon, is you don't really have to critically injure people with a microwave.
In war-torn countries, it is not always easy to separate the opposing forces from ordinary citizens. By using non-lethal directed energy weapons, similar to the benign red laser pointers or supermarket scanners, the military could stop their opponents without causing them permanent injury.
In Somalia, what you saw were Somali militia interspersed with civilians, not wearing uniforms, almost impossible to discriminate from the civilians who surrounded them, who were then using that as an opportunity to fire upon U.S. forces. In a situation like that, the ability to disperse that force using a non-lethal system would be very advantageous and eliminates the situation of you having to fire upon civilians in an environment where that's the last thing that you really want to do.
Well, it's been suggested that these weapons are more humane because they attack technology, computers and so forth, rather than human beings, and the VMADs attack the human in a non-lethal way. But that's a very tricky question, because there's a distinct possibility, by the way, that others will get these weapons and turn it around and fry our computers and so forth. And believe me, the job of protecting weaponry from the electromagnetic pulse is one that has not been solved and may not really in principle be solvable.
Because of its technological superiority, the U.S. military is certainly the most susceptible to those types of technological innovation. And that's why other countries who realize they can't take the U.S. military on in a fair fight are interested in developing these types of things, because they think it's going to help them to even out the playing field.
America stands ready to stun the world with a vast array of powerful new weapons, and other countries are lining up for this new electromagnetic arms race.
I don't know who has electromagnetic pulse weapons like the ones that we are developing. The reality is probably countries like China and Russia. Both do have very advanced military technology. China, for example, is at the upper tier of laser technology and things like that. So, I think those are the three countries who will develop this technology. Perhaps India might be able to do it.
Because these electromagnetic weapons are so new, they are not controlled by treaties that cover conventional weapons. Should we worry when America says it wants to reopen weather modification treaties? What kind of nightmare would be unleashed if we continue along this path? Although we tend to think of weapons in the context of war, police and the military have often used pepper spray, tear gas and water cannons to control unruly civilians. Microwave weapons, too, could be turned on ordinary citizens, but will they always be used in a non-lethal way?
At some point it may be possible to develop a device that would disable the communications and electronic systems, anything with a chip in it, the cars, the toasters, the refrigerators, the televisions, in an entire city.
If an electromagnetic pulse went off over a city, basically all the electronic things in your home would wink and go out, and they would be permanently destroyed.
We're going to go back to the 1800s. With this kind of a society, we are not going to have refrigerators, dishwashers, and dare I say even a microwave. We're not going to have cell phones, telephones, and we're going to not have any form of communication as we know it. Without this communication, there's going to be complete chaos. There's going to be panic in the streets. Talk about issues of control and crowd control in particular. It's going to be complete chaos.